Welcome to Spotlight Ace, the midday show. My name is Stephen Poon, your host for this episode, organized by Special Interest Group, Circular Society from Integrated Sustainability and Urban Creativity Center, ISUC, at Asia Pacific University of Technology and Innovation, APU. What a good afternoon to all the audience out there. Before I take off with our first episode in 2022, and this episode is in conjunction with Earth Day, held on April 22nd. Earth Day is an annual day that unites individuals focusing on protecting the planet by preventing disasters that are occurring more frequently due to climate change and environmental destruction. In other words, saving the world. Our topic discussion for today, waste management in Malaysia and how the youth can play their part. Our first guest for today's show in 2022, Raelyn Chwee, the manager in the Waste Management Association of Malaysia, WMAM, WAM, we call this WAM. So since starting in WAM in 2014, she has been involved with government and member liaison, executing training programs, workshop forums, and conferences for industry players in the waste industry. She is currently working on the projects with local environmental association to engage to the public on the importance of proper waste management in her home country, Malaysia. Rachele was also the key organizing committee member and administrator for the International Solid Waste Association, ISWA, ISWA, we call this ISWA, World Congress in Kuala Lumpur in 2018. Rachele is passionate about environmental issues and intends to grow and progress in the environmental and waste industry. With that passion, she has started a YP group, Young Professional Group, under the association and have established the ISWA Young Professional chapter in Malaysia 2017. She was the chair of the ISWA YPG Young Professional Group Global in 2020 and vice chair of the ISWA YPG, the Young Professional Group Global in 2019. She is currently the communication and marketing lead in the ISWA YPG's Global since 2021. Let's welcome Raelyn Chwee.
Hi, Dr. Stephen. Thank you so much for the great introduction.
Hi, Rachele. How are you doing?
I'm good. It's a real pleasure being here today.
Okay, how was your morning? How was your morning today?
Good. It was good. I was just sorting the cat and the dog today. So they were a bit hyper. So now it's a bit quiet.
Because the
How was
owner,
yours?
not bad actually. Quite a bit of rush this morning, and I managed to get to the campus on time. But cheers for the day and for the good start. By the way, what did you do the Earth Day yesterday? Since yesterday and it was Earth Day, and also this special session today with you is conjunction with the Earth Day. What did you do yesterday?
So I had a very busy day throughout the whole day for work, but at night I was just sorting out my waste at home. So it's just segregating my recyclables and the composting. So I totally missed out. It was Earth Day until checking my social media, like Instagram, and then
I know
realized,
that.
Okay. So at least I did something.
Yeah, and also my colleagues told me about this. Even some of my students reminded me, "Hey, sir, it was a Earth Day yesterday, and things like that." And then also, and I was preparing things to making some of the which is outline preparation, works for the student. Okay. Anyway, this is the things of what we do and yesterday, and also we look forward for the dialogue today as well. So, I would like to set the scene before we get into the discussion. Okay. Okay, pertaining to your topics, I think this is very interesting. Actually, I think audience should be more the youth, the younger people out there. So, and then they would like to know and how this works. Is what is their capacity? I think these are the things that we want to look into that as well today. So the issue of the sustainable waste management has become an important priority for policymakers and other relevant stakeholders of Malaysia as the country prepares to project itself as a developed nation. I think everyone knows about that. Despite several attempts by the government, such as enactment of the new laws and the pursuing privatization, Malaysia is still lagging behind significantly in the sustainable waste management practices, particularly in the area of recycling. Right, based on the study, and also I make a little bit of study that the last whole weeks, especially the last 2 days, I was intensively ready to get into myself, drawn into all this solid waste management study. Thank you very much, Rachel. I know you are getting me into this phenomenon as well, which is good. So based on the study, the current waste management practices of Malaysia, along with their problem as prospect in sustaining and managing solid waste within developing countries. Attitude changes toward waste management and enhanced knowledge in the segregation of waste from the source are essential to reduce landfill problems. The sustainability of the solid waste management can be realized in the lower middle income countries through a rigorous formal environmental education at all school level to close the gap in waste awareness between the elderly and the youth. So Rachel, tell me about the lack of adults' practical environmental knowledge influences waste management.
Yeah, it's a very good introduction. And with regards to that, I wouldn't say like all adults are not aware of environmental issues and the lack of knowledge. I would say it really depends on your location. And you did mention on the developing countries, so it is correct. Like uh, developing countries normally face more issues in terms of the knowledge base. But if you look back here in Malaysia itself, it really depends on
Mhm.
the urban areas and rural areas. So if you notice urban areas, they are more aware of it. So they are aware, but it's whether they care or not care. So the caring part about the environment, it's important to kind of enhance that caringness of the environment. And another thing is, I think, the lack of facilities as well and
Mhm.
available easily for people to, for example, recycle, compost, and all that. So
Mhm.
if you look at urban areas, there are a lot of community-based activities or initiatives that help uh, kind of spread the awareness and then give them the knowledge as well. So I would say like urban areas or communities, they are the ones that drive these things. And
Mhm.
like rural areas, like the lack of facilities, not saying that they don't have communities, but it's the lack of facilities and available. So I would say that's the issue right now, I think, here in Malaysia.
I think probably we look at the another perspective due to the absence of the viable environmental knowledge. I think this is also one of the things we need to look into. That how much do we know? Most of the developing countries that have seen their environment destroyed, the non-existent or the practical knowledge of the solid waste management or environmental knowledge by most adults within the developing countries negatively influence the youth knowledge, environment, the attitude towards solid waste management. So, would you like to tell us more about the lack of the adult knowledge influences the youth solid waste management knowledge and awareness, in particularly the youth environmental attitudes influence the solid waste management?
Um, Yeah. Uh, so I would say it's now at the current stage, it's I mean adults they know but they don't really care, but they don't really influence the kids or the younger
Mhm.
people. But now it's kind of the other way around where younger people are being the influence for the adults. If you look at it, I would say this is because we have social media that kind of gives them the knowledge base, or I would say like information, like fast paced information through that's easily available online. And with that, I find that youth are getting actually, they are more aware now. They're getting more vocal as well. And right now, I think it's our part as adults and how we try to influence them is by hitting the right spot, using the right platform to target these young people, to push them into getting more aware, getting more active when it comes to recycling or environmental issues. And I have to say, regarding like you asked about youth influence towards
Mm-hmm.
solid waste management. So
Mm-hmm.
yes, for sure, it is. Young people have to make a stand right now, and we have to be
Mm-hmm.
more vocal to achieve what we want to make, uh, to improve our sector. And but I have to say, I'm quite impressed with the Malaysian youth these days because they are getting more vocal, especially in
Mm-hmm.
recent years. Be it like political or environmental issues, they are being the advocates to drive change in our country.
Yep.
So I think they are starting to get there, in my
Yeah, and
opinion.
our student from APU also doing that a lot, and especially one of my which is a student chapter in under our research center was doing that really vibrant, and then also they involve a lot of all these CSR project out there. Okay,
Yeah,
Rachel, another aspect that is important to highlight because of the practical consequences on the environmental education is teacher education. So, how do we expect a teacher to teach environmental education if he or she has not received the minimal tools to do so, which is they are not really so-called another way to say that they are half cooked. So, what is your perspective on that?
yeah, I think that's a very important point that you pointed out. This is
Mm-hmm.
where the role of the Ministry of Education, I
Mm-hmm.
think, should really look into, where they should really emphasize environment as a important topic in schools. Um, Aside from that, even if the teachers are not fully, like you say, half cooked, they could actually engage with professionals outside, like waste collectors or waste the people who are in the waste industry, because they do have CSR
Mm-hmm.
programs that can actually be part of school programs and help educate school students as well. So I think that's where both the government sector, private sector should play a part in terms of trying to help educate students through teachers as well. So that's where they have to all work together, in my opinion.
When you say playing a part, is it how do we get to know that when these different parties need to come to play a part? Because playing a part is very easy to mention that. So how do we execute that actually? What is your experience on that? And especially, I believe, especially the youth out there listening now, they would like to know: is this some kind of lip service, or is it any method, any leeway to get this into all this, which is playing a part according to what you said?
I would say it takes one person to initiate it
Mm,
first. You have to
mm,
initiate the plan and reach out to the right
mm,
people, especially when it comes to trying to have education programs in the school. So when one person initiates, then they would get reach out to the right people, and then they can start to actually make an impact from there. And that's my opinion. And I can just give an example of what
mm,
I've worked on as well, that
mm,
kind of reached out to schools,
mm,
was because someone in one of my connections, they proposed an idea of doing school programs.
mm,
And so it gave us an idea to start off like a pilot program sometime in, it was 2018, 2019.
mm,
And we reached out to, first we reached out to manufacturers to produce
mm,
materials that become waste. And we also reached out to people who collect and recycle the waste. So it's two different sides, but they kind of meet together and decide that they need to make an impact. And that's where we also reached out to schools and the Ministry of Education to have programs in the schools. So it kind of takes one person, and then you start to connect everyone together, even though we're kind of all in different industries, but somehow or other everyone is connected in that sense.
What about the type of the planning? What are the planning need to be involved? Would you like to share with us? You know, those are the experience you have done. I think I believe that this will be involve quite a bit of the planning process. Am I right?
Yes, yes, for sure. The planning took a while, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It took a few months for us to plan out. So we had to come up with ideas of what we wanted to do and how
Mm-hmm.
can we attract
Mm-hmm.
students to join the program, to to educate them. How are we going to approach it? Because approaching adults will be different, approaching kids will be different as well. So our target group was we started with high school students. So what we did was we tried to make it fun. So the planning included, of course, like you have your behind the scenes where you have to contact all the people, but for the events itself or the programs itself, we had to make it fun for the kids. So what we did was we had beach cleanup programs, and we had education programs where we had videos highlighting the impact of what happens if we do not manage our waste properly. And we also did something creative where we got the kids to create videos that showcases how they could recycle, for example, and to kind of get them engaged in that
Yeah,
sense.
some kind of
So
vlog, isn't it?
yes, correct.
Yeah.
So that kind
Yeah.
of stimulated their interest
Mm,
as well. So I think
mm,
you can do something like that, something
mm,
simple and
mm,
fun, and makes them think also, because you have to think out of the box as well.
Yeah, yeah. And when you mentioned about beach cleaning, right? And
Yeah.
this reminded me, and our student chapter also did that actually. It was led by another of my colleague, Abi. I think she's fantastic. She's getting all the students involved. Many all these time got a very big project, which is quite a bit big numbers of the students so involved, like doing this, doing that. Clean up beach is also one of the activities. I remember she has shared this with us, once. So this reminded me. Yeah, thank you. Yes, Rachel, when you talk about planning, right? I think I have a thought about this evaluation and planning. So I think we come to this point of the discussion. Evaluation and planning are critical steps, and especially for the city, are looking to create evaluate solid waste management system. Cities are the best position to assess our own needs, evaluate current condition, and plan for the future. So, and according to your experience, especially come to solid waste management, why is planning important for solid waste management system, especially?
It's really important, one, because if you don't have proper planning, you can see, for example, like how we have flooding issues because of the drainage problems that we
Mm-hmm,
have.
mm-hmm,
And it
mm-hmm,
goes into the sewage and all that, and you got clogging. If you throw your rubbish, it clogs up the drain. So if we don't
mm-hmm,
really have proper planning in terms of that, issues like flooding, issues like landslides and contamination,
mm,
because of that, because of no proper planning, these are the impacts of what will happen. So like I feel this is where the government plays a big role, because they come up with the master plans for our cities, our development. So they have to really, really do like an EIA study on, or the environmental impacts assessment study on right before planning these master plans of
mm-hmm,
developments and all that. So they have to
mm-hmm.
include proper waste management facilities, proper drainage, and yeah, and I think there are ideas of starting smart cities, but I'm not really very
Exactly.
familiar with. Yeah, I'm
Mm-hmm,
not really
mm-hmm,
familiar with that topic, but
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
smart cities are
mm-hmm.
something that we could really look into, and from
Mm-hmm.
there, the importance of planning it out properly. Yeah,
Exactly, exactly. You are pointing out one of my expertise, actually, smart cities. So I can correlate the whole thing, actually. Yes, yes,
yeah.
you are right. Absolutely. Okay, let's look at the larger context of bring it to the larger context of waste composition, which we talk about compositing. So
Mhm.
waste composition is different in every day, I believe, urban center, countries, and the region worldwide. So generally, in the low and middle income countries, have a higher percentage of a food organic waste in their waste streams than high income countries. If you comparatively. So while high income countries will have a higher proportion of the recycles, such as paper, cardboard, plastic, and metal. So these different types of waste call for the different solid waste management strategy. So cities have found that an understanding of their waste stream is necessary to design and implement a relevant and applicable system. So why is waste characterizations is important?
it's really important because then we, yeah, like you mentioned about planning and all, so that's where we can
Mm-hmm.
plan out the facilities to kind of treat these type of waste. So as
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned, like developing countries have
Mm-hmm.
higher food waste, like how we in Malaysia itself, we have more food waste compared to recyclable materials. It's also, I would say, most likely because I don't know how to say it, but like I would say developing countries, they tend to have, they collect the recyclables because they tend to see the value in them more, and that's
Mm-hmm.
where I feel that's why it's lesser in that sense. Because I was reading some articles about how they have those waste pickers that pick out recyclable
Mm-hmm.
materials and they sell them, because,
Mm-hmm.
and these are all in developing countries.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so that was the thing that came to my
I'm
mind
not
right
sure.
now.
I'm not sure whether you know that Sweden they like to buy over all the trash,
Yes,
then they recycle it. They have the fantastic all these technology to do that waste management technology to produce,
correct.
reproduce, and reuse and revitalize. So I think is it because cost, because of the cost, and why is it not viable to so-called become a common ground to everybody to have it instead of only for a certain country? So what is the actual rationale behind this? Um, what is your thought behind this?
Yeah, definitely cost is one thing. And here for us, there's a lot of things behind the scenes, I would say. Cost is one issue. Investors that we don't have
Mm-hmm.
to invest in these facilities, and sometimes we have to get the buy-in from the
Mm-hmm.
people as well as the government to start up these things, because they don't really. I noticed in the last. I mean, I've noticed in the last couple of years that waste management was never a priority in
Mm-hmm.
our plans in our
Mm-hmm.
country, which I think
Mm-hmm.
should change, because we've always focused a lot on healthcare. I mean, it's important, of course, healthcare, education, but waste management is kind of the last at the bit of things. So I think it should be prioritized a bit more, because then that way it does impact everything else in the end.
If this is the case because of the cost, and how do we cultivate the younger generation? Um, how do we tell them actually? Is it because of the cost, and they say, "Oh, this is very expensive when we involve all the waste management," so and then we don't do that. So
No, I think
so
we have to change the mindset of the adults first, in
mm,
terms of that. Yeah, I mean,
of course, yeah,
there's
of course, yeah. Go ahead, please. Yes.
oh no, 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 just say there's a lot of things behind the scenes, but uh, we have to change the mindset ourselves first.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from, because the kids and all, everyone know what to do,
Mm-hmm.
and they are aware and they are really pushing for it. So I think both side plays a part. So we have to change our mindset, and the youth should really voice out everything, because when they voice out, they make a big hoo-ha, and you have your social media platforms, and then they use that, and that will kind of push things to go, I think.
Like yes, I totally agree. To continue with what you mentioned about the student really go for it, like what you said, they just do it. So did you realize students are an important agent for sustainable development, and also the time has come to harness their potential as a change agent without hesitation. So for many institutions involve students to be part of this process. One of the institutions capable of promoting awareness of solid waste management in the community is the university, especially nowadays. The time is now to put students at the focal point of the environmental education. Institution must realize that the solution lies in harnessing and utilizing waste as a useful resource rather than an item to be destroyed.
Yes.
So, taking into consideration what are the current knowledge, attitudes, and also perception of the student. I'm referring to the youth regarding solid waste management, according to your experience with the youth.
You'd be surprised. They have like the ones that I've talked to, they are really really passionate in terms of like
Mm,
environmental issues and all that. So their attitude towards it is like, I would say in the past, probably my group of or slightly older friends, they would think if you work in waste management, it's a
Mhm.
rubbish job.
Mhm.
I mean, rubbish, no pun intended, but it's more, yeah, it's more like oh, it's a bit dirty kind of job. But kids these days, I feel the ones that I've worked with lately, they see it
Mhm.
as a resource and something that can benefit them and
Mhm.
benefit the environment as well. So their attitude and perspective have slowly shifted a bit in recent years. Um, I think also like because like I mentioned, how social media, they have the internet, everything is all there, and then information is so easily accessible that people are aware
Mhm.
of all these things. So they are aware, and then they're starting to change their perspective. And if you notice, lately in Malaysia itself, you see a lot of eco bulk
Mhm.
stores that pop up, and
Mhm.
they are promoting uh, minimizing waste, minimizing
Mhm.
packaging, and all that. So it's growing. It's a growing phenomenon here in Malaysia itself. So I think our attitude and perspective are changing a lot more, especially the young ones, because they are pushing
Mm.
for it for change. Yeah.
When you say the young, all right, young, they have the different level. So is it the primary school level or is it the high school level? So what are the differences between these two categories? I believe there is a difference, right? The way they
There is
understand,
difference.
yeah.
Yeah. So normally in primary, I think we have to, if you talk about like, I mean, I'm just going to go back to education and all. So I
Mm,
think when we go into education, we of course have to start from young. We have to start
mhm,
educating them about the impacts at a young age, and then it has to go through, like as in like it has to continue on right into, as you mentioned, institutions, universities. So it
mhm,
has to be a
mhm,
continuity.
mhm,
The difference is, I would say, um, the younger ones, like in, you'd be surprised, like the primary school students, because they have no fear in that sense, where they don't have no fear of voicing out and asking questions. It's easier to input the importance of environment and the impacts of improper waste management, or what happens if you don't recycle, or yeah, those kind of things. If you put it with if you educate them, they will be the ones going back home and like, hey mom, hey dad, why is it not like this, why is it like this, and questioning more
mhm.
and stimulating their knowledge as well, both sides, in that
Do
sense. So
you
I would say
think? Do
like,
you think? Do you think rewarding is a good idea? Which you do some, which you bring in some kind of recycling bottle, and then you get some kind of reward, some kind of like kids like it.
yeah,
They say,
yeah.
oh, they have a little reward, so they keep collecting all the stuff.
For me, in my opinion, I think it's a pros. There are pros and cons to it,
Yeah.
because when you start rewarding and then when you stop, they will
Uh
stop
huh.
recycling. So it
Okay,
has
because
to
I
be
don't
a,
get reward.
yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, I do it because for me it's my footprint, my impact
Mm,
towards the environment. So
mhm,
I feel there's pros and cons to it. There's pros and cons to it. There are people
mm,
debating this issue on having reward systems. Not, it's not a bad thing, it's not a good thing, it's in between for me, in my opinion. But I do it because for me it's my impact and my contribution, I would say, to the environment and to the future. So, but I agree, like, yeah, kids do like the reward thing. Or
my
in general,
experience,
people.
my experience with the young people, right? They won't do it for just nothing. They always
That's
do
true.
it for something. So they say, "Hey, sir, what would I get when I do this? I have to set up some kind of, okay, you will get this, you will get this, you will get that. Then they will start to do a little bit of calculation whether is it worth it to do it actually. So that is really, and then
Oh,
they started to, the best part is, right, they started to negotiate with you. So I was thinking, hey, why you negotiate with me? So but I never negotiate with any elderly when I was young. That time.
yeah.
So I mean, the world is different. Even come to the recycling, right? This perspective, right? And then they also wanted to negotiate with you. It's not like they have been cultivated from young. Yes, actually, environmental education is important, and how do we
Mhm.
understand why do we do this? So, and And again, where do we come from and where do we
Yeah.
go? So this is the things we need to. It has to go all the way back from the beginning. It's not
Yeah.
that easy because this is not. It cannot be done in a day. It has to be take a
Exactly.
while to get this in proper. So while people may feel that there are no significant barriers to carrying out the activity, like those are the things what we just mentioned, they may perceive that it is easier and more beneficial to continue with the present behaviors, such as putting recycler in the garbage. So, what factors affect recycling behaviors and attitudes amongst children and youth in their daily life?
Good question. I would say this is also from a bit of a personal experience kind of thing. It's
Mhm.
on convenience, I would say. Yeah, the convenience of it, because I feel like they find it very inconvenient sometimes. That's why they put it all in one bag, throw it all in one bag, and to make it convenient, I think we have to think of how to make it convenient, make it easy for everyone, and that way you kind of cultivate that culture, and it becomes a norm in the end of the day as well. I mean, because if we talk about education and all that, we already have that there, but it's now how to maintain that also, I feel. Yeah. So I think it's the convenient side for me.
So, what is the youth perception on the environmental problems in Malaysia, especially on the degree of the importance and on the person responsible for solving them?
Sorry. Can you
So,
repeat
what
that?
is the youth perception today, especially on the environmental problems in Malaysia? I'm looking at the Malaysian context here. So, on their degree of what is important to them, on the person responsible for solving them.
Hmm. This one I can't really give a give an direct answer for this, and and
Or
it's
probably you can
it's
share big. Probably you can refer to some of the project, especially I
Mhm.
believe you have involved some of the
Yeah.
youth project, CSR project. So I think comparatively, and every project you will be facing different type of the youth. How
Mhm.
do they respond? And also, if you have been travel more often in the past, I believe different countries they have a different response, especially come to the younger generation. How the way they respond
Oops.
to these environmental problems. But of course, today, but this question I'm referring to the Malaysia context. So I think in
Sorry.
Malaysia context, yeah.
Sorry, I missed it again. Sorry, my internet just went blank for a
Okay,
while.
okay. So yeah, I was sharing with you about the whole degree of the importance of the person responsible for solving these especially the solid waste management. So, what is the
Mhm.
perception, especially? Different countries have a different perception. I believe you have been working abroad, so
Yeah.
those are the kids that you have been experienced. It's not so much the same how the way the kids in Malaysia, the way they respond to these environmental problems. So now I'm looking at the Malaysian context, especially. So you can refer to those are the experience you have been done before, especially with those are the kids from overseas, from abroad. So is there any differences the way, especially the mentality?
Yeah, their mentality is a bit different because
Mhm,
in a way, like in Europe, they they cultivated this culture from a very young age, from
mhm,
preschool itself, and
mhm,
they continued on. And of course, it doesn't happen overnight. It took them many years as well to cultivate this culture. So it became a
mhm,
culture for them. And for us, I think we kind of are just starting now in the last few couple of years, and we just starting to cultivate this culture. And I don't know how to put it, but it's gonna sound a bit wrong, but I feel we're kind of all over the place right
Are
now.
they because of the differences between the female and the male young people regarding about the awareness and aspect? Because I believe the girls and the boys they are quite different the way how they respond. And if
Yeah,
and I also pay a lot of attention when the young people are doing all this cleanup, right? The girl is more so-called caring actually. But the boys is just like I just get my work done. That's it. Just leave me alone. That kind of attitude. I'm not sure about my observation. Is it correct? So, what is your experience about that? Yeah.
Yeah, there are some point. You have some points there, whereby it is like you do see more girls getting into it, and I think it's more of because uh, maybe because we're girls, we tend to care a little more and we're much softer in that sense. So probably that's why there's more advocacy from there, in my opinion. And yeah, yeah. So I think that's where it is.
Okay, sure. Okay, let's open up. Let's open up the our dialogue to question from the audience, please. Let's see what do we have the questions. Do we have any question from the audience, especially the registration questions? Okay. Right. Now I have picked up the questions from here. So, why are landfills environmentally harmful?
Good question. Good question. If like for example, if a landfill that is built or developed without special liners, special ways of collecting leachate,
Mm-hmm.
they can actually produce a lot of harm to the environment, because they can actually create have the leachate seep into your groundwater and contaminate your water for one, and and you get your greenhouse gases emission, because if you don't
Mm-hmm.
capture them, and even on landfills itself in general,
Mm-hmm.
they produce a lot of greenhouse gas, which is very harmful, and that's where your ozone layer gets depleted and all that. So in general, we're trying to divert ourselves away from landfills. We're trying to minimize waste going into landfills, basically. But that's why it's quite harmful in general.
Yeah, yeah. I also done a little bit of study on that as well. So yes, it's just harmful. So the next question from Thomas. I like the question. Which country can be an example for Malaysia to have well waste management in this particular moment? I like that actually.
Oh, I I wouldn't want to say pinpointing. It's quite hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite a hard question, and I wouldn't want to say like which country we can look into, but I think we have to really look at it. Yeah, it's very hard if you ask me, because every country is a bit different, because our waste composition is
Hmm.
different as well. So we have to really look
Hmm.
into that. That comes to play, and we if we want to look, we can look at Europe. In Germany, for example,
Hmm.
it's they have such
Hmm.
great technologies and all that. But then
Hmm.
again,
Hmm.
as you mentioned earlier as well, Dr. Stephen,
Hmm.
regarding the waste composition is different. So
Hmm.
you can't really take them as an example. And then I'll come back to Asia, like we go to Japan. Also,
Hmm.
we can't really look that as like an example itself. But I mean, we can look at it as an example, but we can't maybe practice it here. We have to really look at how our culture is,
Hmm.
our how we think, and try to adapt to it, and try to from there kind of take some ideas from various countries and try to apply it here to make sense for us, I feel.
Hmm. Okay, my personal experience on that, I think I share with you. I've been to Sweden. So what I
Yep.
see is what the Swedish doing is unbelievable. So they can, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I'm not sure whether my calculation, my estimation is correctly. 70 to 80% of the waste, right? They all gone into the solid waste management process to recycle everything as much as they can. They have a very high technology in waste management technology which is practice. So they not just only the government support that, and also the citizens themselves, and then they have this kind of knowledge, understanding, and also awareness since they're young. So
Mm-hmm.
and I never lived there for long, just been there for a month because I've just visited some of the friends at that time when I was in Germany. So yes, it's just German. They have all this high technology pertaining to this waste management practice. But again, if you comparatively with the Swedish, right, what they have done for waste management, right, I think they are really, I think they are tremendous. What I see.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I couldn't think of. I mean, for me, if you're asking my personal opinions on that, right, I myself will benchmark with the Swedish how they do it. But of course,
Yeah.
many other countries they're doing fantastic as well because I
Yeah.
never visit them yet. That's like what you say about the Japanese, and they are doing quite well as well. But I never visit them. But of course,
Mhm.
one day, yeah, in Asia, I believe some of the country doing not bad, especially our neighboring country, Singapore. So I
Yeah.
think they are doing not bad. But still, a little bit, if you comparatively with what the Swedish doing, right, they're still a little bit away from that. But of course,
Yeah.
if you come to Southeast Asia, I can say that I think our neighboring country is not bad actually,
Yeah.
especially Singapore. Yeah.
And Thailand is actually pretty good as well in terms of
Yeah.
recycling. If you
Um,
they're
it's really
recycling.
it's really depends on the region actually. It really
Yes,
depends.
correct. Actually,
Certain
that's very
places
true.
it's really strange actually. Certain places they don't really care.
Yes,
Especially really rural that kind of area, they don't really care. They
exactly.
don't even. But certain places they're doing fantastic actually, like
Yes.
Bangkok, like certain places they're doing really
Yep.
well. They really segregated the waste really well, and they even know how to do it. They even tell you that this
Exactly.
is wrong.
Yep.
So I
It's
was
also because
educated
they,
once.
yeah, yeah, because we work closely with them as well,
Mm,
and it's
yeah.
because they do have a very established association that
Mm,
drives
mm,
this change
mhm,
there,
mhm.
and yeah, so that's there's a few, yeah, there's a few that you can look into, but it's just how to make it into a very Malaysian context,
Yeah,
because
yeah, very Malaysian
our
context. Yeah.
yes, yes, so Singapore would be
In
a
Malaysia, we need rewarding. We need to reward. Then
exactly,
it's different
exactly.
mindset, different.
Yeah, but
Okay.
Singapore is also, you'd be surprised they're
Yeah.
not like super all there as well. They do have a lot
I
of
think
technologies, but
if I'm not mistaken, they practice differently. They don't
yes, it's
reward, but
different.
they give you penalty if you don't do it.
Exactly.
You do it wrongly, you
Exactly.
get penalty. Yeah. Oops.
Yeah,
That's different. So it's a different
exactly.
practice. Okay. Right. The next question. What are common barriers to implementing waste diversion programs? This is
Hmm.
let me see. The question is from Lao Junyong. Yes. What are common barriers to implementing waste diversion programs?
Hmm. I need to really think about this one here. Common barriers. Uh,
Okay, never mind. We just come back to
yeah,
that later
let,
on.
let me
Okay,
get
we
back to
just
you because I need to think about
okay.
this.
Okay, Junyong. So we will come back to you, Junyong. Hopefully, you can stay there. Okay, stay with us. Okay, the next question: what are the benefits of maximizing waste diversion?
Well, once we really maximize it, then we won't have landfills anymore. For one, that's yeah. If we can really diverse, yeah, if we can really remove it from there, so no more waste into landfills, hopefully, and recover back a lot of more resources. Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to the next question from our colleague Daniel. So, what do you think about the idea of creating art with plastic waste and then create NFT and sell that to the collectors? I like that
Oh,
actually. It's a
actually,
current
it's a very good
phenomenon.
idea. It
Yeah,
is.
NFT. So, what is your thought? What are your thoughts?
I think it's a good idea to create art with plastic because art is also very subjective. So, creating art and then at least that minimizes plastic going into landfills or going into other streams. I mean, like, to the, yeah, to the environment. So yeah, I think it's a good idea,
And also,
and
and I also discovered when I travel, I couldn't remember. There's one of the hotel in Langkawi. I think was there from since the 70s.
is
I'm
it
not sure whether it's
frangipani?
yes, actually. Thank you very
Yes,
much, Frenchy Penny.
yeah,
This hotel is unbelievable. Actually, they recycle every single thing.
yes,
Even
correct, correct.
even the third water come from the washing machine at the backyard or what. They just recycle the whole thing, and then
Yeah,
after that, the water is drinkable.
yes,
So I don't know. I'm not sure about that water whether is it really. I mean, they say drinkable. So, but I never
yeah,
tried that. So it's really
yeah,
purified water. So Frangipani, yes, that's the hotel. I think they have done this actually. They're still doing that since the
yes,
70s until today. Yeah.
yeah. So
Okay. Yeah.
it's very good.
Mm,
The hotel, for example, is it's one of the most greenest hotel in the
mm,
country,
mm.
and I think
Yes.
in
Yes.
Langkawi as well. So
Mm,
that's
yeah.
a very
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
example. Yeah.
But this is the big slab actually. You will say Langkawi. If you look at the surrounding of the Langkawi, so
I
there's a
know.
different.
Yeah,
When I go there,
exactly.
oh, what happened? And then we have Friendship Penny there. But look at the surrounding of the Langkawi, the dirt all over the place, the trash all over the place. I think because of the tourists, too many tourists, they're just they're undertaken care, end up. So yeah, let's move on to the next question, by Zihao. Question: waste division. Let me see. Okay, waste division requires a lot of manpower. In your opinion, how do you increase the efficiency of waste division without relying too much on manpower? Okay, this is good one actually.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
This is where I think they look into technologies, but aside from that, separation at source,
Mm-hmm.
that's also part of our Malaysian plan, or the act, where separation at source is an important thing. Where if
Mm-hmm.
you separate your waste at home, then it makes it a bit easier or makes it more efficient when it comes to waste division
Mm-hmm.
before going to landfills, and then you can get your recyclables and valuable materials. So separation at source would be a very good way of increasing the efficiency, and also technologies like you've mentioned as well. In Europe, they have the technology where you just put everything and it separates on its own without much manpower. So, but the investment, then again, investment of these technologies will be really high. So,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
true. Of course, but when we talk about investment, right, that there will be another
yeah,
session about this because today we talk about the youth.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah, because investment with this solid waste, this is another topic because it's quite a heavy topic, in fact.
Yes, yes.
Okay, right. Let's. Okay. Do you want to go back to the questions? Just now you have. Um, I think some. I think
Yeah,
by
yeah.
Jun Yong.
Ju-
Yeah,
Junyoung, yeah.
yeah. By Jun Yong. What
Um,
are the common barriers to implementing waste diversion program? Is it by Junyoung?
Sometimes, yeah,
Yeah,
Junyoung.
no.
So to implement this, I feel sometimes it's uh, it's getting the right people to be involved would be the barrier,
Mm-hmm.
one of the barriers, and getting the buy-in of the people to start these waste programs sometimes takes time. It takes time as well, that we see, because even for us in the association, when we plan out these things, it takes a lot
Mm-hmm.
of time, a lot of effort, and trying to get everyone in the same common ground to run these programs and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
these are the things that we see as a barrier to implementing them.
Okay. Uh, I have some questions here.
Hmm.
The management. I will continue with the question. Remember, just now we were talking about the difference between the female and the male young people regarding about the awareness of the aspect. Okay, let's look at the different perspective, and especially look at the adult. The management and the recycling solid waste or and sewage is a growing problem in the most urban area. So, because of the concern related to both public health and environmental damage, so how is equality between women and men relevant to the waste disposal system?
Wow, this is a very good question.
Yeah, I think this is important because if we don't do it well for ourselves, right? How do we cultivate the younger generation? Am I right?
That's
So
true.
I
That's
think
true.
this is true, So because they always benchmark, which is the people who older than them.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
if we tell them to do this to do that, they would say that I don't have to do this because so and so didn't do it.
Yeah.
So especially some of us, right? We are the public figure, so we are being watched by those other people. So those are the behavior, right? Towards those are the understanding of the waste management, especially how do we respond to that? This is important. So if we respond not the way what we say, but again it become a lip service, then it become a
Mhm.
cliche for them. So I think this will be. So I would like to have your thought on that.
On the equality, right, regarding
Yes,
women and men
yes,
in the industry.
yes. Mm,
Um, I think in the last couple of years, we see a
Mm,
lot more women getting more involved in the industry,
mm,
in
mhm,
that sense. And these women are they're pretty like strong because in the
mm,
past, I think even from my own experience, waste management sector is always very male dominated kind of industry at one point. But now we see a lot more women getting more involved and more vocal. And for example, if you see small startups, they are all actually led by women. And even big companies now are being led by women entrepreneurs or women leaders. And they push for change a lot. Not saying that one gender is better than the other because we both need each other.
yeah.
So that's my opinion on it. But yeah, you can see there's a lot more shift towards female leadership in terms of that, and especially in the waste sector. And even from working with the international side, we see a lot more women that are joining the association and getting more involved and more vocal, and they are speaking their minds as well.
I believe there is a difference between men and women. The way how do we see the whole process, especially how do we get involved? When you mentioned about those are the startup like things, and also the younger generation. How do they see us, and how do they bench us? They will refer to so-called the women version instead of the men version, or vice versa, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, right. We are almost come to the end. Okay, let's conclude this, Rachel. Um, Developing countries in Asia are still backward on the issue of waste recycling, as there is not much awareness of the waste recycling and also in effective policies. And I think this can be reflecting to Malaysia here. So, but in many developing countries of Asia, municipal solid waste contain around 50% organic matters and 30% recyclable materials on average, leading to a potential of recycling 80% of the total waste, according to the research here. Right. In comparison of the industrialized nations, like the developed nation, these wastes are dense and are potentially composed of high moisture contents because of their origins in organic materials.
Yeah.
Moreover, separation of household waste is unpopular in developing countries because of the people's perception of considering handling of the waste as something being below an accepted level of the social dignity.
Yes.
So, as a dialogue today, most of the young people do not have any idea about waste management in their region. But of course, I don't say all, but some of the, of course, you still find some of the young people, they are appealing to that. But majority, you can see that not many of them are aware of the tools for waste disposal in their city or town and the whole process of the waste disposal. So those who do not sort waste realize that the change will force them to make a decision on their behaviors, whether to change their habits and start caring for environment, or it's just to not change anything. So it shows how difficult it is to change people's mentality. So, and how important it is to try changing society's awareness before any amendment. It is also significantly to interact with each other and teach how to change the attitude, and most importantly, why it's worth and why we should sort waste. Rachel, thank you so much for being here. It is absolute my pleasure as well as a privilege.
Thank you so much, Dr. Stephen. It's been a pleasure being here and having this conversation. I do hope after this, it opens up everyone's eyes on how young people can play a part and how all of us, not only just the young, but all of us can be the change in to help develop this industry. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Rachel. Right, Spotlight Dialogue series organized by the Special Interest Group Circular Society from Integrated Sustainability and Urban Creativity Center ISU at Asia Pacific University and Technology and Innovation APU. Till then, take care and each other. For the Muslim, enjoy breaking your fast in the evening, and the rest have a nice weekend.
If I wanna be adored, I'm the girl you die for. I'll chew you up and I'll spit you out, 'cause that's what young love is all about. So pull me closer and kiss me hard. I'm gonna pop your bubble gum high. Oh, sugar baby, lick up my lips. Hit me with your sweet love, fill me with a kiss. Oh, sugar baby, lick a lips. I'm gonna be your bubble gum bitch. I'm gonna be your bubble gum bitch.